A former BBC Scotland lawyer is suing TV licensing chiefs on the basis that he was falsely accused of not paying for a licence.
This is interesting. Alistair Bonnington says that he was hounded with the threat of prosecution after moving to his new house, despite already having a licence, and saying he didn't have a legal background and he would have felt intimidated by the letters unless he had. It's really interesting, this story.
Alistair joins us now. Alistair, thank you so much for your time. You're obviously familiar with the law. Tell us what happens. You move house, you start receiving these letters and think, right, something's up.
That's right. I moved house and rather stupidly, I immediately bought a television licence. I say stupidly because I already had one from my old house and I should simply have transferred the address of the old house to the address of the new house. So when I began to get threatening letters, I actually had 2 television licences, not one, which perhaps is a bit over the top. So I then naturally wrote to them and told them what I had done, and they gave me a refund of one of the television licences, which was fair enough. Now, you'd have thought at that point, having acknowledged that I had 2 television licences, having given me the money back for the one I had wrongly bought, they might have accepted that I was licensed with 1 licence and that was enough. But no, they started to threaten me. They said they would prosecute me. They said they would take me to court. They then sent a letter that indicated that I was going to get a visit. It sounded very much as if it was going to be rather intimidating heavies, an old Glasgow tradition, of course. I used to be a criminal lawyer in Glasgow, so I was reasonably familiar with this kind of thing from debt collectors. But I think that really the point is they ignored everything that I said to them. I wrote to them repeatedly saying, look, I have got a television licence. Would you stop sending me these stupid letters?
Alistair,
not at all. They never did.
Alistair, good to have you on. This is on the back of a TalkTV investigation the other week that showed that 130 people are being prosecuted on a daily basis. And can I just make the point? The fact of the matter is, and I don't mean this the wrong way, Alistair, because you're not this, but there's a lot of old and vulnerable people who live alone, who are being persecuted, who are being intimidated. And Lucy Frazer, the Culture Secretary, was on our show yesterday morning, and the very Culture Secretary said this is disgusting and it is wrong. It smacks a bit of what's happening or what happened with Horizon and the Post Office. You had a legal background. You knew what you had to do. But I want your response to hundreds of thousands of people, older people, who haven't got a TV licence, shouldn't have a TV licence, and are being intimidated. That is frankly deplorable, isn't it, Alistair?
No, I quite agree. I mean, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, which is suing. It's Capita are the agents who act for the BBC in collection of the other people that trade under the name TV licensing, but it's actually Capita PLC. The BBC put this out to an agency. And it would appear to me, from what you're telling me about, obviously I haven't heard the full story about all the other people who have been hounded as I have been, but I understand that they make mistakes all the time. It seems to me pretty clear that this company simply isn't fit to do the job. They don't know what they're doing. They don't listen to what they're told. Now, because I've got a legal background, I know for a fact that people will plead guilty to criminal charges when they're not actually guilty. I know that the public at large probably don't believe that happens, but I can assure you it does. People are very frightened by court proceedings. It's all very well for somebody like me who's used to being into criminal courts all
Alistair,
the time.
You've had a first-hand experience now of what it was like, because you've described being hounded when you knew you hadn't done anything wrong. What were the tactics they were using then to try and scare you, intimidate you, get you to pay up?
Well, they continued to write letters, irrespective of what I said to them. They just ignored everything that I was said. I had the impression, having listened to the post office scandal, it might be the case that they're on the same sort of arrangement as I believe was the case in the post office, that they were on commission to get money. I'm not sure, of course, but it just occurred to me that they were so blindly going ahead, irrespective of what was said, that maybe that was the way that they were being employed. I don't know. But what they did was they sent the last letter, one of the last letters I got, was what they called an enforcement visit was approved. Now, they put on that letter a stamp. You know how, if you've ever dealt with legal documents, lawyers have a terrible habit from the Middle Ages of putting stamps and things, round stamps. So this thing had a round stamp on it. It said visit approved. Now, it didn't sound it was going to be a terribly friendly visit for the purposes of enforcement, and it was signed by somebody. Probably it's just a spoof. It probably isn't anybody's name. But I mean, okay, even with my legal background, I certainly took the view if they came that day, I was going to get a neighbour to come in, because I thought the chances of this crowd telling the truth of what happened were pretty remote, frankly. And I wanted
Can I jump in very, very quickly? And as I said it before, I think the intimidation, the manipulation and the concern is what this should be about. Am I right to say, very, very quickly, Alistair, you don't have to open your door. What you should say is you come back with a warrant, because these people are intimidating elderly and vulnerable people. It's against the law, isn't it?
Well, of course, if you intimidate someone, yeah, I quite agree with you. It's all very well to ask for a debt to be paid that's due, but it's not to do it in this kind of way. And as I say, the only reason I'm involved in suing this company, Capita, is quite simply because I understand that what happened to me is rather widespread. And in many cases, as in mine, it's completely unjustified.
Alistair, thank you very much for your time.